All right, so welcome. As people continue to join, I'll just admit them from the waiting room, but we'll go ahead and get started because there's lots to talk about. So welcome again, I'm Antoinette Hurtado. I am the U.S. Department of State Diplomat in Residence for the Southwest. What does that mean? That means I'm the recruiter for the Southwest region, covering Arizona, New Mexico, and El Paso, Texas. And I'm also here as a resource for students who are interested in careers, who are interested in our student programs, which are internships, fellowships, study abroad scholarships, lots of different opportunities. So I'm here to help be a resource for you as you pursue those things and have questions about this career, about this lifestyle, particularly with the Foreign Service. So I'm really happy to be with you today and happy to be in the Southwest with all of you. So if I could, for those of you that have joined us already, if you wouldn't mind, please putting your major and your year in the chat, because that can help me to tailor this conversation a bit to the kinds of opportunities that are most relevant to you. And then could I just see a show of virtual hands? I already asked Reem, but for Carolyn and John, could you raise your hand if you were here for the March session 4 weeks ago when I talked about careers and unpaid internships? Were either of you here for that?
No, I wasn't here.
Okay.
There's no thumbs down in my reactions.
Okay.
So
No problem. Okay, and John, were you here for the March part 1 session? Maybe mic's not working there. Okay, so I asked just because I don't want to repeat oh, I see you sent me a message. Yes, okay. Great. Oh, medical studies and poli-sci. Okay. I asked just because I don't want to repeat sort of anything I said there, but I also want to give enough information for this session to have context in terms of our careers. So I'll just say a couple brief things about the careers at the top so you know where things fit in place in terms of opportunities in the State Department, and then I'll go into the student programs that have money attached to them. So first, again, I don't need to tell this crowd, we are the U.S. Department of State. We're the foreign policy arm of the U.S. federal government. So we are here to implement the president and the administration's foreign policy agenda, priorities, programs. So that has been our mission since 1789 when we were created as the first cabinet agency. This career, I showed these 2 pictures in March just well, for fun, but also so you can realize that this is not a typical job, right? This is a kind of different, extraordinary opportunity to travel the world, learn new languages, meet amazing people. These are just some of the amazing people / animals / things that I've met over my career, but so many more in addition to that. So that's just a little taste of things. And if you do want to learn more about the career side, I'm going to focus on the student programs involving money side today. But if you do want to learn more about the career side, of course, you can reach out to me, and you can also check out careers.state.gov. So in the March session, I talked quite a bit about sort of why we serve, right? Why do people join the State Department? I won't go into this too much here because I want to head straight into the student programs, but it is a career about public service, right? That's why a lot of us join. It's a career about making a positive impact on the world and knowing that you are contributing to a more peaceful and hopefully more prosperous world for everyone. You're learning a lot of different things. You're learning new languages for wherever you need to go. Some people think that you have to have a language before coming in. That's not the case. The State Department will teach you what you need to know, the language that you need to know before you go there. I had Spanish before joining the State Department, never used it in the State Department because I've never served in a Spanish-speaking country, but the department did teach me Portuguese before I went to Brazil, and the department taught me Italian before I went to Italy. So actually, I should back up for a moment to say I am a Foreign Service officer. That's the career path that I took in the Foreign Service. I've been with the State Department for almost 18 years, be 18 years in just a couple of months. I've served overseas in Australia, Brazil, Afghanistan, Italy, several assignments in Washington, D.C., and then this assignment with you here in the Southwest now. There are also a lot of benefits to working for the State Department. For me, the biggest financial benefit, in addition to the emotional benefit of the reward of doing something good for the world, but the biggest financial benefit has been the housing. When you are in the Foreign Service, you're living and working overseas, your housing is free. So as you may very well know, rent or mortgage tends to be our biggest expense every month. So imagine not having to pay that. If you're anything like me, I joined the State Department right out of grad school, and coming out of grad school, I had some student loans, I had a car loan, a little bit of credit card debt, and because I didn't have to pay rent for the entire, 2 years of my first tour, I was able to pay off everything. So it really set me up to be much more financially stable since then, which has been great. And then you get, tons of other perks and benefits. You get paid additional money depending on where you serve, student loan repayment programs, your kids' schools paid for if you're in the foreign service. So lots of different things. We are, in terms of careers and also for our student programs that I'm going to talk about, are looking for a diverse group of people in all the ways that that manifests itself. We have a lot of different career paths. We're hiring for a lot of different kinds of jobs. So we're looking across academic disciplines, and we're looking for people to bring the great diversity of America, the great diversity of their experiences and their perspectives to this work so that we have the best, most informed foreign policy and implementation in the work that we do, because it really is critical. We're addressing global challenges and really, difficult and complex international issues. So we need to bring to bear all of our incredible resources across the country for that. So I'll just briefly mention the career sort of areas or the differences in our workforce, just so you have a feel for where it fits in terms of the student opportunities that I'm going to talk about in a moment. So in the Foreign Service, there's our Foreign Service workforce. I'm a part of that as a Foreign Service officer, though that's those of us who are living and working overseas at US embassies and consulates. It doesn't have to be exclusively overseas. As I mentioned, I've done some assignments in Washington. I'm doing this domestic assignment in the Southwest now. But you're mostly, at least half or so of your career, you're spending it overseas. But we also have a domestic workforce, and that's called the Civil Service. These are our colleagues mostly in Washington, D.C., where our headquarters is. But also we have passport agencies and field offices across the US. There's one in Tucson, passport agency in El Paso. So those people who work there are also in the civil service. And even within the Foreign Service, there are sort of two additional career path groupings. One is Foreign Service Officer. Again, that's what I am. We are hired to be generalists. So we're also known as Foreign Service Officer generalists. We're not hired for specialized education or work experience. We're hired to have a general set of skills and knowledge. Foreign Service Specialists, however, as you might suggest, or you might believe by the name, they are hired for specialized education and or work experience. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. But these are folks like our engineers, our law enforcement personnel, our office managers, our building operations folks. So there's a wide range of opportunities there. So that is sort of the Foreign Service and Civil Service workforce. And I say that again, because that way you'll have a better idea of the student programs, where they fit into this picture. I can talk more about the career side of it as well, if you all are interested towards the end in the Q&A. But this session, I wanted to focus mostly on the money and the money in all the student programs that we have. So I can come back and talk more about Foreign Service Officer, about how you apply these 5 career tracks. Even though we're generalists, we're still expected to choose one of these 5 career tracks to more or less focus on for our career. But I've done a consular assignment. I've done several PD assignments. That's my career track. I've also done a political tour. So you can do a number of things within that. However, for the Foreign Service Specialist, you are hired for that specialized education and or work experience. So that is the job that you do for the duration of that career, as long as you're in that position. And then our civil service, I mentioned earlier. So let's get into student opportunities, particularly student opportunities with money. And actually quite a few things have changed, or new programs have started since the last session that I did with SPGS in March. So let's get into this by starting with the internship. So we do have both unpaid and paid internship opportunities. I covered the unpaid opportunities for internships in the previous session. However, since that previous session, our biggest internship program, which is the first bullet point that you see under internships, the student internship program, that has now transitioned to being paid. So that's the biggest news at the top of all of this. It had always been unpaid. The student internship program is full-time by semester, so you can do it either spring, summer, or fall. And it had always been unpaid in the past. You can do it overseas or you can do it domestically. But as of sort of early April, we were able to receive funding from Congress and some recent legislation to transition the student internship program, again, our flagship internship program that was always unpaid in the past, to paid. So that started with the fall 2022. semester applications. So they reopened the fall application period for folks to apply for this paid opportunity. So the unpaid opportunity for fall 2022 is no longer. And we are hopeful that Congress will continue to give us the funding to make this internship program permanently paid. So paid moving forward, spring 2023, summer 2023, and beyond. So that is the biggest change in terms of money, in terms of paid opportunities with the State Department. There's also a new fellowship that is coming on board soon that I can talk about when I talk about the fellowships. And then there's also a new study abroad program that just came out last week. So lots of new things to talk about. But the biggest is that our biggest internship program, called the Student Internship Program, is now paid moving forward. So let's dig into that just a little bit more. So this student internship program, again, this is our biggest program. This is our flagship program. This was reopened as paid for fall 2022. We're hoping it's paid moving forward. You'll notice that the deadlines are quite a bit ahead of the internship period. And why is that? That's because for our fellowships, for our internships, all internships except for one, you need a security clearance, right? So that takes some time, that takes some months to have that process go through. So the next internship opportunity through this program will be for spring 2023, and that will open up around May, June. They're still sort of deciding on what the final application period will look like, but around May, June. And then for summer 2023, that application period will be this year as well. So that will open up around September. Definitely, again, register with me at the link that I mentioned there, because I'll be sending out a notice when that does go live. So this is now paid, hopefully moving forward in perpetuity. It is available for undergraduate juniors and above through doctoral. And I see, let's see, we've got maybe two juniors, or maybe three juniors, maybe everyone's a junior. There's a minimum GPA for this program, it's 3.0. And as I mentioned, it's full-time for a semester. So either spring, summer, or fall, full-time for the 40 hours a week, overseas at one of our embassies or consulates, or domestically in Washington, DC, or even at, one of the passport agencies, if that interests you. Now, due to the pandemic, these internships have been virtual since the pandemic started, but we are hopeful that pretty soon, either in the next semester session, or the one after, these will be returning to in person. So we'll see, how that goes, but that's our hope. So this is the biggest program. This is now paid, and definitely encourage, if you're all interested in an internship with the State Department, would encourage you to take a look at this opportunity, because it's not just paid by the hours. So you receive what's called a GS-04, that's the pay scales for the civil service, a GS-04 salary, which is roughly $17.50 an hour. But not only is it paid by the hour, the funding that we received is allowing us to make housing paid for and transportation to and from work. So there's a lot included in this paid program. So it's really an amazing opportunity. We've never been able to offer this before. This is the first time the State Department has been able to offer a paid internship program. So again, paid by the hour, your housing is covered. They're looking into sort of where to house folks for the fall now. And then the transportation to and from work would also be covered. So an incredible opportunity here. I'll just briefly touch on this internship opportunity. It's unpaid, but it's so flexible that I really think it's a good opportunity for some students. This is our second biggest internship program, the Virtual Student Federal Service. And we see the word virtual in there, but it's not a pandemic creation. It was created, I don't know, about a decade ago. And it was always meant to be a more flexible option for students. So students can do it from wherever. There's no GPA minimum. You can do it from freshman year to doctoral status and anything in between. Couple of key differences. One, this is for the full academic year, whereas the previous one that I talked about is just for the semester. But while this is for the full academic year, it's only part-time. So it's a maximum of 10 hours per week. Maybe one week it's 5 hours, maybe another week it's 8 hours. So that's sort of the maximum that would be expected. But for those, for whom a course load is heavy in a particular semester or year, or you have work obligations or family obligations, whatever it might be, right? Life happens, then this could be a great opportunity. And this is the only internship that we offer that does not require a security clearance. So the deadline is much more manageable here. So starting July 1st, applications will open. You have the whole month of July to apply. The very next month in August, you find out if you got it. And then the very next month in September, you would start the internship. So let's get into the other paid sort of internship / scholarship opportunities. And really, I would probably refer to this one more as a scholarship opportunity and the next one as well, because it's more than just sort of an internship. This one in particular, the U.S. Foreign Service Internship Program. This is a competitive scholarship program that we offer for rising juniors or seniors. So you would be a sophomore or junior at the time of application. And it's for 2 consecutive paid summer internships. The first internship at state being domestic, the second internship being overseas at a US embassy or consulate. But that's not all you're getting. This also involves professional development, which is why I mentioned it's really kind of more of a scholarship program. And then you're also taking the Foreign Service Officer test as part of this professional development program, which is the first step to becoming a Foreign Service Officer. Again, that's what I am. So the Foreign Service Officer test, that's the written exam. That's the first step in the application process to becoming a Foreign Service Officer, or FSO, as we say. So there's a lot included in this particular program. And I think it's really great if you want to see if the State Department is for you. Try it out with 2 internships, start to take the exam, and then you can really be set up nicely afterwards for, hopefully entry into the Foreign Service. Another internship, or kind of more scholarship professional development program that we offer is the Wrangell Summer Enrichment Program. This one, like the U.S. Foreign Service Internship Program, is only for undergrads. So our audience here is of that. It does require a minimum GPA, as does the previous one. You would have to be a sophomore or above at the time of application. And what it is basically a 6-week summer program to introduce you to the field of international affairs. What are the key issues going on right now? What is this field about? Who are the key players? So you're talking with people not only from the State Department, but also from USAID or Peace Corps, sort of others in this space, learning more about this field and learning more about careers in international affairs. But it's more than that too, which is again, sort of why I say it's kind of a scholarship program. There's also professional development involved with this. You are networking, you're attending seminars and conferences, you're getting mentorship opportunities. And it's also meant to prepare you a bit for the coursework involved in graduate studies, if you want to pursue that in your route to joining the State Department. So there's a little bit of coursework involved as well to kind of give you a sneak peek of what grad school might be like. And this is a fully funded program if you're successful in applying, plus you get just over a $3,000 stipend for the summer. So pretty significant opportunity here. So those are the paid internship opportunities I'm going to highlight. The next paid opportunities I want to talk about are our fellowships. These are all career pipeline opportunities. And so what do I mean by that? It's not like, sort of a Fulbright scholarship where you might get a grant to go and study something for a year, but then after that you go into, a completely different career or a different area of study. All of our fellowships are career pipelines in that they are meant for those who want to join the State Department, because at the end of the fellowship, if you're successful through all the fellowship components, at the end and upon graduating with your master's, you join the State Department as a full-time employee. And so that's a unique distinction to make here. So currently the State Department offers 3 fellowship programs, soon to be 4, and I'll talk about that in a moment. The other fellowship program I had put on the previous slide, the Payne Fellowship, I throw that in there because that's a USAID program that's very similar to our fellowships. That's for those who want to join USAID. So if that's of interest, there are sister agencies, so I like to mention that too, because of course they're doing amazing work as well. So for our fellowships and the 3 that we currently offer, we offer the Pickering Fellowship, the Wrangell Fellowship, and the Foreign Affairs IT Fellowship. They all have very similar components. I'll mention the general components first, and then talk about what the distinctions are between the 3. So all 3 of our fellowships, and then I'll talk about what the 4th one is going to be too. All 3 of our fellowships currently being offered, again, are career pipelines. You join the Foreign Service after you complete the fellowship. What does the fellowship entail? You get 2 years of funding for your education. You get 2 paid internships, 1 domestic 1 year, the next summer 1 overseas. You're getting professional development opportunities. You have an assigned mentor. You're having network opportunities. You have a summer orientation program, sort of lots involved here. And then once you complete the fellowship, for the Pickering and the Wrangell, you are joining the State Department as a Foreign Service officer. So I actually joined the State Department through the Pickering Fellowship. And once I was done with the fellowship components, I joined the State Department as a Foreign Service officer. So again, that career pipeline, they're meant with folks who know they want to do this. And this is a way to get some schooling paid for, get some professional development opportunities, so that you have sort of an edge, a head up when you join. So for the Pickering and Wrangell, you're joining as the Foreign Service officer. For our third fellowship, the Foreign Affairs IT Fellowship, and I don't think we have any IT majors, so I won't even really focus on this. The funding is a little bit different. If there are questions, I'll come back to it, but I won't really focus on that now. So going back to the Pickering and the Wrangell, the fourth fellowship that's going to be coming on board, you can't find this on any website yet. It's not out there for public consumption, but in the coming months, we are hoping that everything will be set up and we can start promoting it and start recruiting for it and accepting applications. The fourth fellowship will be the same career pipeline, will be the same in terms of 2 years of funding for a master's program. So you would be a senior at the time that you would apply for the Pickering or the Wrangell, because then you would be applying concurrently as you do your grad school applications for the funding to kick in to pay for your master's. So the new fellowship that we're going to be offering, same thing, pays for 2 years of a master's, 2 paid internships, professional development, mentoring, orientation, all that good stuff. The difference is that while the Pickering and Wrangell provide a career pipeline for becoming a Foreign Service officer, the new fellowship, which will be called the Clark Diplomatic Security Fellowship, provides a pipeline for becoming one of those foreign service specialist areas that I talked about before. And that is a special agent in our diplomatic security service. So that will be a fellowship for people who are interested in becoming a special agent in our law enforcement arm in the State Department. So we're really excited that that's coming on board soon. So stay tuned. Again, register with me in the tiny URL. And when that does come on board and we've got something to announce, I'll be sending an email to those who are in my region of Arizona and New Mexico. So those are our 3 existing fellowships, the Pickering, the Wrangell, the IT fellowship. Soon in the coming months, we'll have that diplomatic security fellowship as well. And with the fellowships, just one more thing I'll mention, it's sort of like a State Department ROTC in the sense that you get all of these great things. You get the money, you get the paid internships, professional development, you join the Foreign Service, and the expectation is that you serve for at least 5 years, is sort of the service commitment, so to speak. I'm going on my 18th year with the State Department, so clearly I've exceeded my service requirement there. So that's the Pickering and the Wrangell. I always tell folks, the fellowship programs are so similar. There are really only 2 tiny differences that if you are at all interested in either of them, just apply to both. So that's what I always recommend to folks. The differences are really so minute. It's where you do the domestic internship and then when you do the domestic internship and overseas internship, but otherwise they're the same program pretty much. So that is fellowships. Now, next, I'll talk about study abroad opportunities. So there are many study abroad opportunities at the State Department. Just behind my head there are a couple of sites that you can look at for even more information: studyabroad.state.gov, languages.state.gov, and exchanges.state.gov. The Gilman International Scholarship, and I have slides that are more specific to each of these. I can go into more detail if there's interest. But the Gilman International Scholarship is for undergrads only, and it's for those with financial need who wouldn't be able to study abroad otherwise. So you have to be a Pell Grant recipient. There's a version of the Gilman that's called the Gilman-McCain, named after the late Senator McCain, that is for children of active duty service members who are receiving some type of Title IV federal funds. So this is definitely a financial need program if you want to study or intern abroad and otherwise wouldn't have the resources. So I definitely would recommend this program, which is fantastic. And then if you're interested in studying a particularly difficult language or sort of interesting language, critical language is what we call them for these programs, there's the Critical Language Scholarship and the Bourne Scholarship and Fellowship. Now, before I go into any further detail there, let me just see in the chat, is there anyone who is interested in studying a critical language? Because if not, then maybe I'll move on from that. I'll just sort of mention that they're out there. If you want to do a summer abroad for the Critical Language Scholarship, or a longer period abroad for the Bourne Scholarship and the Bourne Fellowship. Okay, I'm looking at the majors. I don't see that anyone has mentioned a language that they're studying, but if there are additional questions, I can go into that. So the Critical Language Scholarship and the Bourne Scholarship and Fellowship are for those who are interested in either getting first-time exposure to one of the critical languages or deepening their knowledge of a language that they've already started studying. And then there's the Fulbright US Student Program. Now, there are many Fulbright programs, but the one that I highlight here is the one sort of most relevant to current students' work. The Fulbright US Student Program gives grants for students to either study abroad, to do research abroad, or to teach English abroad. You do need to have a bachelor's before the grant starts, so this would be something sort of after graduation, but good to think about now because the application period is now. In fact, it's open for application right now, and that is also an option. So I have, as I said, more detailed slides on all of those that I can go into. But let me pause for the moment here on this slide. So again, this is me, I'm Antoinette, your diplomat in residence, covering the region. My email is dirsouthwest@state.gov. And in fact, let me go ahead and put that into the chat so it's easier for you to copy and paste. So that's me. If any of this piqued your interest and you want to talk further about any of these programs or about the careers that I mentioned at the beginning too, I'm happy to meet with you, happy to take any questions over email, and then we can have a phone chat about sort of what might be a best fit for you. So definitely feel free to reach out to me. You can also follow me on Facebook. The kinds of things that I post there are internship and fellowship opportunities, study abroad opportunities when they open up for application, job opportunities when those open up, different event notices in case you want to attend an event to hear more about what the Foreign Service officer career is like, or what the Foreign Service specialist careers are, or diplomatic security careers, or IT careers, or engineering careers, or any of those types of things. So you can always follow me there as well. So let me pause there because that's about a half hour in, and I do want to leave time for some questions, and that covered a lot of ground. So just a reminder that there are lots of paid internship, fellowship, and study abroad scholarship opportunities out there. So there's a lot of money on the table. Don't be shy in pursuing these opportunities if any of that is of interest. And I'll go ahead and see if we have any questions. You're welcome to raise your hand and come on mic, or you can put your question in the chat, whatever you're most comfortable with.
I have a question about some of the fellowships and internships, specifically the like Wrangle fellowship slash internship. So I was wondering if it was possible. So say you don't want to go straight into graduate school, you want to take a year to like get some experience and learn and like have a job. Is it still possible to apply for these fellowships after, like, once you get that year experience and like you're applying to different graduate schools, or does it have to be during your senior year as an undergrad?
So great question. It does not have to be your senior year. It just has to be the fall that you're also applying to graduate school. So you can take a year off to, I don't know, travel the world or to work or to whatever it might be, or 2 years off, 3 years off. But at the time that you are going to apply for graduate school, when you're ready to go back to school, then that fall semester that you're applying for grad school, that's when you would also apply for the Pickering or the Wrangle.
Okay. And then this also kind of relates to the Wrangle like internship. Does it have to be, because I know it's like sophomores and above, right? So say I already have an internship for this summer as a third year, and next year I'm going to be a senior. So can I still apply to this for like that summer after I graduate, or am I no longer like, do I no longer qualify because I've already graduated?
So you do have to be in resuming student status for this, meaning that you would be returning to your studies at the end of the program. So it would, so at that point, if you've already graduated, then you would no longer be a resuming student. So that would not be applicable there. But if you, as I say that, I'd like to see and your question raises a great opportunity for me to check with my colleagues to see if there's any flexibility there, because I actually haven't had that exact question before. If you wouldn't mind sending me an email at that dir.southwest@state.gov asking me that question, that will remind me to get in touch with my colleagues to confirm if that is the case or not. If that's a program you're really interested in, just shoot me an email. I'll connect with my colleagues and I can give you the 100% definitive answer. But as I understand it, you do need to be a resuming student. So I don't think that would be eligible, but let's explore that a bit more because I'm sure other people might have that question too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And then this isn't really related to like the scholarships or internships, but I actually have two questions regarding like the Foreign Service Office like job, if that's okay.
Please, yes, let me go back to that slide here.
Okay.
Here we go. Yes.
Okay. So my first question is like, what's some advice that you would give to someone who is interested in becoming a Foreign Service officer, but they're not sure where to start or like what to study for the exam?
Okay, great question. So let me start with some disclaimers, which is that you don't have to study any particular field to become a Foreign Service officer. In fact, a bachelor's degree is not even required. You just have to be 20 years old at the time you apply and have to have a high school diploma or GED equivalent. So sometimes I get students who are worried about, oh, do I need to be studying IR? Do I need to be studying public policy? Neither. And if you are, great. And I had a kind of a traditional international relations educational path to the Foreign Service, but a lot of my colleagues in the Foreign Service did not. Some of them studied biology or chemistry or engineering, or were former journalists, or were former military, or former lawyers. Actually, a lot of my colleagues are former lawyers. So you don't have to have a particular area of study. So I just kind of want to ease any concern about that there. But in terms of what to do to prepare, of course, will some coursework in undergrad help you to pass the test and sort of be more familiar with some of the themes? Sure. But technically you don't need a bachelor's. So the process for becoming a Foreign Service officer is in one of the links. If you signed up, one of the links that I'll send out later, there's an 8-step kind of infographic that I'll share that shows it. But the very first step is taking the written exam, which is also known as the Foreign Service Officer Test. The written exam has 4 components. It's a written essay. It is questions about job knowledge, so international affairs, global issues, history. It's questions about situational judgment, and it's questions about English expression, so your grammar and things like that. So English expression, everyone, hopefully has been taking English classes in high school and in college. The other items, it's always helpful, and there's a suggested reading list or preparation list on the website, as well as a practice test for the written exam. But it's helpful to, brush up on what's going on globally, start reading the news every day, have a, refresher about sort of key historical events, key constitutional issues, like, refresher on what are the amendments and, things like that. And the practice test will help tell you more about what that involves. But I would take the practice test very seriously and make sure that you are registering for the exam during a period where you have some time to dedicate to the preparation. And I say that for a couple of reasons. One, of course, you want to prepare for the exam, take the practice test and do any supplementary studying so you can put your best foot forward. But also too, because at the time that you register for the test, it's not just that you're putting your name in, selecting a date, and you take the test. At the time that you register for the test, you also have to do 2 other things. One of them is to choose one of the 5 career tracks that you see on the slide here, and I can talk more about those career tracks if there's interest. But you would choose one of these career tracks at the time that you register, and that will be what you're expected to focus on for your career. So you want to do that thoughtfully. You want to do it when you have some time to look at the material on the site. There's a quiz on the site too that I'll send the link to, which career track is best for me. Make sure that you're doing that thoughtfully so that you're making the right decision for you, because once you've selected that, if you make it through all the steps and you get hired, that's going to be your career track, your area of focus. The second thing that happens when you register is that you'll need to submit your application, basically, for the position. So you'll be asked to submit some, information about your work experience, your education, and also a series of short essays called the personal narratives. These are short essays. And when I say short, like 300 words short, showing how you demonstrate what's known as the 13 dimensions. Now, the 13 dimensions, this will be another link that I can send out to folks. That's what we are evaluated on. We as Foreign Service officers, as applicants, as candidates, are evaluated on at every stage of the application process. They are deemed to be the most important qualities that the Foreign State Department has found are necessary for a successful Foreign Service officer. Now, there are things that anyone can sort of develop. There are things like composure, cultural adaptability, oral communication, written communication, judgment, good judgment, things like that. So your personal narratives and your work and education experience are things that you're going to need to submit to. So a lot actually happens in that first step, and you want to put your best forward not only on the test, the written exam itself, but also on these supplementary materials, because then the second step, should you make it past the written exam, is what's called a qualifications evaluation panel, where they're reviewing your score from the written exam, they're reviewing the personal narratives, they're reviewing your whole application package that you submitted when you registered to see if it all looks like you would be a good fit. If they see that in your material, so again, reason why you want to make sure you're registering and you prepare those materials during a period where you have time to commit to it and to review it and to get some feedback. If they feel you would be a good fit, then the next step is the oral assessment or interview process. And then there are a couple steps after that. But basically, if you pass the interview process, you receive a conditional offer, but then you still need to get your medical clearance and your security clearance. So that can take some additional months. So all of that is to say ways in which you can prepare, take that practice written exam. It would be really helpful so you can see the types of questions that are asked and get a feel for what areas you might need to study. There's no need for any additional academic study or even internship, experience. My advice to students is always, YOLO, right? Life is short, so do what you feel passionately about. Do what you find interesting. Don't, sort of do an internship just because you've got to check a box for a number of reasons. I give that advice. So really, the best preparation is looking at all the elements of that written exam, preparing for it, putting your best foot forward in the application process. But there isn't anything in particular you need to study or anywhere in particular you need to work or intern. And what I also encourage students when I say that is that they should think more broadly about all of their experience. It's not just your academic experience or just your internship experience. What has been your community experience? Do you volunteer? Or even, we have the opportunity to develop these 13 dimensions, these qualities through any number of interactions and activities. So think more broadly about your experiences. I worked retail at an outlet mall near my house when I would come home for the summers from college. So whether it's retail or a fast food gig or whatever it is, you are building skills. You're negotiating. You're developing composure and customer service skills. So just think more broadly about how you've had the opportunity to demonstrate these skills in your life, not just in the academic setting or just in the internship or work experience setting, but beyond that too. Does that help? Or did you have any
Yes.
specific follow-up with that?
I do have a specific follow-up. So is there a number of times you can take the test? Like, is there like a max amount of like 3? You can only take it 3 times before they're like, no way. Or can you take it as many times as you need to get a qualifying score?
You can take it as many times as you need. The only caveat there is that you can only take it once within a 12-month period, but it's offered 3 times a year in sort of spring-ish, summer and fall-ish. So you can take it, once a year for as many times as you need to.
Okay. And then, sorry, I'm really sorry if
Please.
anyone else has a
Please.
question. So my next question would be, I know there's a really like rigorous security clearance that you need to pass. Because I actually know someone who is currently a foreign service officer and someone who had applied for the Pickering, received it, and then something had happened and they had to back out. But they said there's a pretty rigorous security clearance, and I do have family overseas, as well as the fact that I'm Palestinian. So how would the fact that how would that affect my ability to get the security clearance, and whether or not it's like a hard no, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Let me ask a first question, and I don't mean this to be intrusive at all, but just to clarify something. You are a US citizen.
Yes.
Okay, yes. So then, and that's a requirement for all the things that we are talking about here. So in terms of having family overseas and having traveled overseas, that is not a disqualifier at all. In fact, it's a desirable quality, right? In a lot of ways, because you want someone who's demonstrated an interest in the world, beyond them, and in learning different languages and cultures and traveling. That's part of this lifestyle, right? So that is not a disqualifier at all. What I will say about that is that if you have a lot of foreign national, either relatives or friends, contacts, or you've traveled extensively, part of the security clearance process will be, of course, a general asking you questions about where you've worked, where you've studied, where you've traveled internationally. And so as they get into your international experience and your foreign national contacts, you're going to need to, list all those people who would be there. And so it may make the security clearance a little bit longer of a process, because they're going to talk to everybody, right? They're going to talk to not only you, but they're going to talk to family, they're going to talk to friends. I applied for the Pickering Fellowship in college and got it back when it used to be an undergraduate fellowship as well. My friend from high school called me and said, Antoinette, this person, this investigator just called me, is asking if you drink alcohol excessively or if you have communist leanings. I was like, yeah, that's part of the security clearance process. So no worries about that. So they're going to reach out to people. And part of who they reach out to are your connections overseas and any, foreign national contact, anyone basically that knew you in all the different places that you've traveled to. So they'll reach out to those people. That's not a disqualifier though at all. It just means that it might take more time for those who've traveled extensively or who have a lot of foreign national contacts to sort of complete the investigation process. But it's not a disqualifier. And as I said, in fact, it's, a desirable quality that people are, interested in looking at the world sort of beyond their hometown. So not a disqualifier at all. What they are basically looking for in the security clearance process is, are you loyal to the US government? Can you be trusted to represent America? Can you be trusted to handle sensitive and classified information? Is there something that someone could blackmail you for? Have you had some extreme, criminal misconduct or extreme financial irresponsibility? Not just because they care if you're financially responsible, but the implication then is, could someone, blackmail you, or could you be the subject of undue influence because of these, things that might have arisen in your life? Now, you mentioned the one person who chose something else, and that you have heard that security clearances have been denied. I'll be upfront in saying that for a lot of people, the top reason for disqualification is often drug use. So it's just a reminder to folks that, we encourage people, even if you're just applying for an internship or, whatever it might be, especially a fellowship and especially a career, start to act now as though you have that position and as though you have a security clearance. So I'm always reminding students that technically at the federal level, marijuana is illegal. And so, you want to be thinking about sort of things like that. That I have seen be kind of one of the biggest disqualifiers is drug use. And then, of course, other things. Everyone's life is different. Everyone's life experiences are different. So other things might be at play too, but they're not looking to ding someone who has overseas travel or to ding someone who has contacts with foreign nationals. It's part of the bigger picture of who you are, what you've done, where you've been, sort of, what your character is, and, any other, major indiscretion you've had in your life. So not a disqualifying thing at all, not a bad thing at all, and not, a reason to worry about the security clearance.
Okay, thank you so much. I was just worried because like I said, I am Palestinian, and so like I do have family who lives in Palestine, but I don't speak to them like at all. Um like I just there's no way to. So I just wanted to make sure that like my identity as someone from that particular country within the Middle East isn't gonna like hinder me when it comes to like getting that security clearance and applying.
Yeah, no, it's not a hindrance at all. It's not a hindrance at all. Sometimes what'll happen with people who have dual citizenship, depending on the country, let's just use as an example, Chinese citizenship or Russian citizenship or something. And I say that to note that dual citizenship is not a disqualifier at all for security clearance. But what might happen is, depending on the extent of one's ties to that other country, they might not be allowed to serve there as a US diplomat. And that's for a number of reasons, not just the loyalty question, but also because a lot of other countries, if you are also a citizen of that country, they won't accept your diplomatic immunity. They won't give you sort of the rights of the Vienna Convention and other things, because they consider you to be a citizen of their country rather than an American citizen. So we can't protect you, sort of there. So it's other reasons that can become that can become complicated. So I've seen that happen. I think I had a colleague one time who's Greek American, also had Greek citizenship, and was not allowed to serve in Greece, but could serve anywhere else, other than that. So that's the only sort of context in which I've seen that cause any sort of, prohibition.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Sigh of relief.
Yes, yeah. It's not a disqualifier. In fact, there's almost nothing really that is an automatic disqualifier. Everything will be taken in its totality, in the fullness of your life experiences and the fullness of who you are. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about that at all. Fantastic. Let's see. Oh my gosh, time is going by quickly. I just saw it's almost at the hour. I'm happy to still stay on if there are other questions. So any other questions on anything that we talked about today, the career side, the student program side, life in the Foreign Service, security clearance, any other issues I'm open to talking about at all. And let me see, wow. I wait to see if there's another question. Let me just come back again to the final slide, which has my email. Feel free to reach out to me if you want to talk further about any of this, whether it's the careers or the student programs or anything we've covered today. I'm more than happy to be a resource, and would love to see some more folks from the Southwest join the State Department via any of the programs that we've talked about today. So let's see, one last call for any questions.
I have a quick question.
Please.
What's the best way to find like the job description of the very generalist jobs, whether it be counselor or policy or political? Because there's a few different things I'm studying within those groups that I find interesting, but it's a little hard to want to commit to one of them before I know exactly what it entails.
True. So if you registered, I'm going to send links to the Foreign Service Officer career track descriptions, the quiz that you can take on how to see which one is the best fit for you, the link for the application process. I'll also send some links for the Foreign Service Specialist, for Consular Fellows Program for Civil Service. So if you registered there, I'm going to follow up probably this evening. After we're done, I'll go ahead and send the email so that you have all of the links there. So that will give you links directly to where you need to go on the website. But at careers.state.gov, you can also just navigate to Foreign Service under Foreign Service Officer. And you can see kind of all the things that I mentioned. You could read more about each of the 5 tracks and sort of what that work entails. There's not only a description there, but on another part of the website, there's a section for employee videos where you can watch a couple of videos of people who are consular officers or public diplomacy officers or political officers, and have them, describe a sort of day in the life and how they found this career and what's been most rewarding about their particular career track. So there are a lot of resources on the website to get a feel for what might be a good fit, because you're right, it is a big decision and there's so many opportunities out there that you want to reflect on what is the best fit for you. And then if you're thinking about any of the Foreign Service Specialist positions, then one of the links I'll send to, and you can also find on the website, will show you the 19 different jobs for which we hire under those 8 different categories that I showed on the previous slide. And it's a lot. And so you can go one by one and look at those different positions and see if maybe your educational background or work experience could be a good fit for that too.
And I had one other question. I saw there's a few reading lists. Is there any books on the reading list for Foreign Service or book about the Foreign Service that you recommend or that you really liked?
So there is on careers.state.gov where it talks about the application process. There is what's called a suggested reading list of things that you may want to read, may want to peruse. It's not required by any means, but one of the things on there that a lot of folks I know read and find helpful is, I don't want to get the title wrong, I think it's Life at a U.S. Embassy or Day in the Life of a U.S. Embassy, something like that. It's a short book that has sort of vignettes, little stories of those who are in the Foreign Service and experiences that they've had, just to get a feel for what to expect. So that should be on the list, and that's one thing that I've heard mentioned as a helpful resource. But really, I think one of the best things on the website is that Foreign Service Officer test, otherwise known as the written exam, the practice test for that. I think that's a great way to prepare, so you know what's going to be on the test, what types of questions, and then kind of tailor your reading and tailor your studying to where you feel like you need the most refresher. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay.
Antoinette, if I may chime in, I
Yes.
think the book, which is sitting on my bookshelf,
Oh, perfect.
Inside a U.S. Embassy, Diplomacy at Work.
That's exactly it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and there are a number of other books that were recommended by past colleagues of yours. Working Inside the Embassy, which is another one similar, but the idea is you get a day-to-day account of what it's all about. So you
Thank
can find
yes.
it on Amazon, I'm sure, for $5, something like that.
So Inside a U.S. Embassy, that's what you said, correct? As the name for that book, because I think I was thinking A Day in the Life, but I think you said it's Inside a U.S. Embassy.
Yes, Diplomacy at Work by
Diplomacy.
Sean Dorman. He's the editor.
Okay, fantastic. And I have a copy somewhere around here as well. Any other questions? And as I said, I'm happy to still stay on a few more minutes if anyone wants to speak one-on-one. I'm happy to continue to stay on for a few minutes and chat. But any other questions to address while we're all together? Okay, well, thank you so much for joining. I hope you found this helpful. And if any of this, as I said, sparks an interest for you and you want to chat further, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. There's my email again, dirsouthwest@state.gov. I would love to chat with you about any opportunities. But regardless, no matter where you end up going, I wish you the best with all of your pursuits and all of your endeavors, and I wish you nothing but happiness and success. I'm here as a resource if you want to chat and if you want to talk. But wherever you go, again, just I wish you the best. So let me